Okay, so I kind of skipped ahead, and I've already taken the liberty of doing reaction two. I just want to say real quick though, before I did reaction two, and started to incorporate the other substances into the calorimeter. One of the things that I did with the temperature probe and with the calorimeter is I rinsed out the calorimeter and the temperature probe with DI water, so that way I can neutralize the calorimeter's environment as best as I can, and then did the same thing with the stirring rod, so that way there's not any cross contamination. So at the beginning of the experiment, I added 100 milliliters of the hydrochloric, and then I added the 2 grams of the sodium hydroxide. So when adding both of these, it's going to neutralize the solution inside the calorimeter. So after about 3 minutes, as you can see here, the initial temperature of this experiment ended up being 19.4, and it started to drastically climb after I not only added the sodium hydroxide, but after I started stirring it more vigorously and the sodium hydroxide started to dissolve. So towards the end of 3 minutes, it started to plateau and kind of go back down, which was an indication that maybe some energy was starting to become lost. So one thing that you'll see on the graph that I will share with you guys for reaction two is the final temperature is not necessarily found over here, because the highest temperature was found over here before it started to plateau and start to drop. So that's why you always want to make sure that you're reading this graph appropriately, so that way you know what the highest temperature is, because it might not necessarily be over here at the very end. So you'll see this on the document in the folder that I talked about at the beginning of class, where you can see all this data with the initial as well as final temperature. Okay, so in the next video, we're going to take a look at the last reaction, which is basically hydrochloric and sodium hydroxide, but instead of adding solid sodium hydroxide, we'll take a look at what happens when we add a liquid sodium hydroxide.